Our Lord 2024, 6 p.m. Item 2, roll call. City Secretary.
Mayor Hoven,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Swanner,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Mata,
Present.
Councilmember Thompson,
Present.
Councilmember Vasquez,
Present.
Councilmember Haney,
Present.
Councilmember Connell.
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
We do now. Invocation will be given by Dr. Rudy Espinosa, Puerta del Cielo, also led by the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge by Councilmember Thompson. Pastor? Is Pastor here? Mr. Espinosa? Okay, since the pastor is not, maybe he's stuck downstairs in the elevator. It's a possibility. That has happened. Councilmember Swanner was actually stuck downstairs, and she took the stairs. And thank goodness we have a doctor and we have some paramedics. Well, wait a moment. If not, we're going to volunteer someone to be able to do our prayer. But while we're here, guys, it is full. So we have some notables here. We have our state senator, Mr. Sparks. Thank you for being here. Anybody? I can't see anybody else. Don't want to miss anybody. You get real condensed real quick. So
Hey, we have County Commissioner
we have County Commissioner.
Stringer.
Is County Commissioner Stringer? Are you here, sir? There you go. How are you doing, sir? Welcome. Thank you for joining us. If not, then I'm going to ask one of our members of the council to lead us in prayer, if you wouldn't mind. Anybody want to? Oh, not everybody. There you go, sir. If anybody would like to join us for a moment of prayer, will you please stand up? Council member?
God, we thank you for this day, Lord God. We thank you for the blessings over this city, Father, that you bring to us every day, Lord God. We just thank you for the group of men and women that are standing here before you. Lord God, let us be honest in everything that we do, Lord God. Let us be the light, Father, that shines up here on this for your glory, God, in everything that we do. And we just say thank you, God, for our lives. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Oftentimes, City Council, we have an opportunity to recognize notables throughout our community, exceptional people doing exceptional things, organizations going above and beyond. And so this is a small token that we get to do at the City of Odessa to be able to recognize such items. And when we ask to personalize it, our City Secretary, Ms. Aguilar, does an incredible job. And this one was no exception, but we did have to we had to do a lot of editing. And so the amount of accomplishments were so much and so long and so coveted that this proclamation is just a small preview, but it does not do this person justice. At this time, I would like to ask Dr. Richard Bartlett to join me and his family. The City of Odessa proclamation. Whereas our local licensed physicians are devoted to relieving human suffering through the prevention and treatment of illness and injury. And whereas Dr. Richard Bartlett is no exception, as he has contributed to advancing the art and science of medicine in the fight of illness. And whereas Dr. Bartlett provided for the first successful COVID protocol for early and late stages of COVID-19, and over 90% of COVID hospitalizations and ER visits were prevented. And whereas he has provided expert testimony for early successful COVID treatment, lessons learned from the pandemic and the Patient Rights Bill, and whereas he has contributed his expertise in service by serving on the public health and medical professionals with transparency, and having served on the Texas Health Disparities and Task Force, and whereas Dr. Bartlett continues to provide his expertise on CBS 7 Talk Radio and a speaker throughout this country. And he also does a lot of expertise on radio. I know he does with KWEL 1070. And I believe you're on another radio station here in Odessa, if I'm right. 550, correct? 550, KCRS, yes. Now, therefore, I, Javier Joven, by the virtue of authority vested in me of this wonderful city as mayor of the city of Odessa, Texas, I do hereby proclaim today, July 23rd, 2024, as Dr. Richard Bartlett Day. So throughout this wonderful city, this community, and this county, and all of the Permian Basin, not the state and the nation, we urge all Odessans to join together right now to recognize an incredible doctor, an incredible man, an incredible father, and an incredible citizen of Odessa, to recognize him for faithfully attending to the citizens of Odessa as a well-respected physician. Let's give him a doctor a round of applause.
Mayor Hoven and city council members, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. I went to high school at Permian High School, who would have thought? And Odessa College, I'm very proud to have gone to Odessa College in tech, and then came back here. My whole medical career has been here. I wouldn't change a thing. You are my people. I'm honored to be here today with you. God bless Odessa. God bless Texas. Make America great again. Make Texas great again. Thank you.
Well, Richard and I married as college sweethearts, and so we've been together his entire career. And I can honestly say that his motto has always been to provide the care that you would use for your own family. And he has always treated each patient as an individual, and they're people before the sickness. And I am so proud of him today for all of his accomplishments. We have done medical missions all over the place. I can honestly say that his character is, he doesn't just close down the clinic at 5 o'clock. But I have seen people standing in tents in India and a lot of different countries, and he will stay there until midnight as long as there's a line, and he will help everybody that needs to be helped before he stops. And I think that we saw that during COVID. And I'm so thankful for everybody in the community. It means so much to us. It's an entire team of people, as you know, and a family goes through everything together. So thank you so much.
Give me a minute. Thank you.
Citizen comments on non-agenda items. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. As your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. In accordance with the open meetings law, the city council cannot respond. However, council can direct the city manager or staff member to contact you. Victoria Romo?
Hello, City Council. My name is Victoria Romo. I'm a representative of the Odessa Deserves Better campaign. I'm here to speak on behalf of our group, some of which are here with me today, and others from whom you have personally received messages. They have voiced that the City of Odessa needs to prioritize animal life-saving and accept offers of support from national and local organizations, and this sentiment is shared by the 350 Odessans that have signed our petition so far. We urge city leadership to accept these offers of support, which include financial support, in-person training, comprehensive cat programming, veterinary services, and veterinary advice, medical triage, and protocol. We want to see commitment to life-saving and providing these resources to the people of Odessa. Together, we can save more animal lives in Odessa. Thank you.
Any member of the public may address the city council regarding any of its agenda items before or during the consideration of said item. Council, we have the item 6 consent agenda. I'll review it and entertain a motion for approval, for amend, or to deny.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Mata. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Thompson to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor indicating by motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicate same motion. Motion passes unanimously. And so we're going to move up to the public hearing. Open a public hearing to consider request for Vacor Holding.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes.
We have number 5.
You know, I'm trying to get to the end real quickly. Regular meeting, item 5, consider the grant coordinator position, create a grant coordinator. That's spending money, we don't want to do that. So we have item 5, consider new grant coordinator position. Ms. Banda?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. So
Bless you.
I'm
Sorry
here
about that.
before you today, that's okay, to ask for your consideration of the creation of a new position in the Finance Department titled Grant Coordinator. So I was fortunate to be able to have a conversation a few months ago in Washington, D.C. with Bill Holland. He's a Senior Vice President of the Bipartisan Policy Center. And one of the things that I asked him is what he thought that local governments should be looking at or focusing on. And so one of the things that he told me was that, in his opinion, local governments should be focusing on a handful of things, some of them including investing in human capital aspects and investing in things that were going to drive your returns and your revenues. And so the creation of this position, which to my knowledge is the first time we would have this position, is doing both of those things. So it's clear that the city has a lot of growing needs, and we in finance would like to hire this grant coordinator to work with the departments on those various needs, to help find funding for these priorities. There's a lot of money out there that we are that's available to us that we're just not currently taking advantage of. So we would like to create this position. The job description is in your packets. So they would be responsible for the general procurement, management, and administration of grants, to include grant research and identification, grant writing and submittals, citywide facilitation of departmental grant planning, etc. So this is a position that basically pays for itself if they even get one grant. So as far as investment, return on investment, it's a pretty good deal. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? I know as a council, we've been working
I
towards
would
this.
just like to make a statement.
Yes.
Congratulations. I can't wait till you can find that person to fill this position.
Kaylee, I was going to say the same thing. Having a grant coordinator that's citywide writing, planning, compliance.
Mm-hmm.
We should have done this years ago, and in my opinion.
Well,
But thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. I appreciate your support in this, and I appreciate y'all recognizing how valuable this could be to the city. So,
Long overdue. Council, do I have a motion for approval on item 5 as presented by Ms. Benda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Swanner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mata. All in favor indicating by motion of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
thank you so much.
We're going to move on to item 6. Consider rejection of bids for communication software platform integration. Ms. McDaniel?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Mr. Beckmeyer. I have Tony Flores here with me. This is a joint project that has been taking place with IT and our department. So we're going to make it easy right now. We're going to reject the bid. We just don't think it's a good fit.
That's enough for me? Yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion to consider rejection bids for the communication software
moved.
platform? I have a motion by Councilmember Cornell, second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Haney. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, in the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Easy
Thank
peasy.
you.
Item 7, consider bid award for the valve assessment and maintenance services. Mr. Niles?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Recently, we received 3 bids for the valve assessment project for the entire city. After a committee review and evaluating best value, we would like the council to award the project to Hydromax USA. Their initial bid cost is roughly $817,963 and will take approximately 223 days to complete. However, there are several unknowns at this time, including 1,800 unknown valves. Therefore, we are estimating the total cost of the project to be roughly around $1 million. We respectfully request you award the bid to Hydromax USA and approve moving forward with the valve assessment program.
And council, if you all remember the mid-year budget savings, I pulled $1 million out for this. This is one of the most important things that we have going on right now. Not only will we identify working and non-working valves, we'll identify where they are.
Yep.
And thanks to Kevin and Alex, in some of the latest breaks that we've had, they've gone in and it's like, well, there's nothing really here, but it's right over there. So this is huge. It really is.
Yes.
I appreciate them getting the RFP out. They know I've been asking them every time it turns around. They turn around. Where are we on this? I can't talk to the importance of this enough.
Yeah, this is definitely critical. Council, any further comments?
Mr. Niles, when can they start?
As soon as I'm assuming by September 1st.
Mr. Niles, the phase 1 of the 171 valves, is this separate or in conference? Just bringing everything together?
As far as what now?
It is
The
separate.
171.
It is separate. It's a
Okay.
separate project.
Okay.
Oh, the
But
replacement of the
Yes.
171?
Yeah.
But this
Yes.
will play heavily into that
It will.
project.
Yes, this
All
will give
of-
us a good indication of what's working, and actually, they'll also be able to make minor repairs on site while they're doing this assessment.
All of these projects lean on each other, for lack of a better term. We've got to do this one. This one helps us get to that next one. Mr. Niles and his team have identified some critical ones that these have to be done so we can isolate towers if we have to shut the plant down, things like that. This is more comprehensive than the 171, but it helps get to that. That helps us get to the next project, which is line replacements. They all play on each other. And thank goodness we have a team that can see that big picture.
Well, the most impressive thing is that we knew we had to do it. The thing is we had to identify how we were going to pay for it. And that mid-year reassessment of the budget is where we were able to do it, and that's how we got here to this point. Aside from the 171, which is a complete separate project. Council, do we have any further discussion on this item or questions? Now to entertain a motion to item 7 to accept this bid award for valve assessment to Hydromax USA for valve assessment and maintenance service.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Thompson, second by Councilmember Vasquez. All in favor indicating by motion of aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, sir. Now we're going to get to the public hearing. Item 8, open a public hearing to consider a request for Valcor Holdings LLC. Ms. Shaughnessy. How you doing, ma'am? Welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the applicant is requesting a zone change from future development to a light industrial. This is to create a light industrial business. They're currently on the property already, so they just are trying to expand. They're going to be adding 2 more facilities there. So it fits with our comprehensive plan. We did send out 12 notices. We had no rejections. We did take it to to PNZ. It went 5-0 was voted on July 3rd. Therefore, staff is recommending approval. I can now answer any questions if you have any.
Council, do we have any questions? Are the owners here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What? She raised her hand.
Oh.
In the back.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what is the business?
You can come up.
Just give your name, just your name for the record.
Ziying, Z-E-Y-I-G.
And what's the name for the business, your
Magrim
firm?
Consulting.
Okay, there you go. Go
with
ahead.
Engineering. So it's a warehouse addition.
Warehouse addition.
For like oil field gas operation equipment.
Okay. Council, do we have any further questions, comments? This is a public hearing. Yes. Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address this item, item 8, as presented to the City Council, can do so by coming forward. You can do that by coming forward now, stating only your full name and only your name. You can do that now. I will end the awkwardness and I will close the public hearing, seeing that nobody rushed to the podium to comment on item 8. Council, if no further discussion, I will entertain a motion to approve item 8 as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Mata. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Haney. All those in favor indicating by the motion of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Resolution item 9, consider moving funds from the reserve for the purchase of 2 fire pumpers and 1 ladder truck. Mr. Adams.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to ask y'all to consider moving $3,878,366 out of my reserves into my capital outlay account to purchase 1 Spartan 107-foot rear mount ladder truck and 2 Spartan pumpers for Metro Fire Apparatus Specialties. The price that I am requesting, that includes a prepayment discount of $169,574. Per the agreement with Metro Fire, the ladder truck would be delivered within 300 calendar days, and the 2 pumper trucks would be delivered within 600 calendar days.
Within a what?
600 calendar days.
Wow.
Just a side note, these will be delivered at or when or before some that we've had on order for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And we had a meeting with the company that we have them on order for with, not these, the others. We were promised just about everything in the world and have had really no interaction back from them. And so this is a good move. He's got it in his reserves. We're not having to go out and do anything special for it. And I appreciate Chris, kind of like the tires, I appreciate Chris going out and getting what we need.
Good.
Well, that was my question. Is I know we ordered these.
Yeah.
2 years ago at least, because 3 years ago, yeah. We make it. Councilman Sprouls and I kind of made a joke that we wouldn't live long enough to see them.
You may not.
I made it.
Oh, they're still not here.
So you've got 300 on the latter day and 600 on the bumpers.
I'm on the clock, huh?
Yeah, you're on the clock.
Starting now.
Starting now, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, any further comment, any serious further comment?
Chris, these are add-ons, not replacements.
These will be replacements.
These will be replacements, okay, thank you.
Twice, yeah.
Council, we have no further discussion on item 9 as presented, and this is for 2 fire pumpers and 1 ladder truck. Entertain a motion to accept.
I so move.
Motion by Councilmember
Second.
Vasquez, second by Councilmember
Got it. Second.
Cornell, I'm sorry, Cornell. All those in favor indicating by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 10, consider approval of the city program year 2024 CDBG Home Action Plan. Ms. Curry? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Council, Mayor. You should have your action plan that was presented to you. The 2024 action plan establishes the City of Odessa's one-year implementation strategy for addressing community development, housing, economic development, human service, and public facility improvement needs of the citizens of Odessa. The City of Odessa Community Development Department will administer and provide oversight for the activities to meet the community needs and goals in the 5th and final year of our 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan 5-year investment strategy. We're here tonight to consider your approval of the action plan to be presented to HUD.
Council, I know everybody read the action plan.
We did.
If there is no discussion, comments, or questions, entertain a motion to accept item 10 as presented by Ms. Curry.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Swanner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thompson. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Very much. We're going to go to item 11. Consider accepting and appropriating funds in the amount of $140,000 donated to the City of Odessa Police Department from the Bustin' for Badges Clay Shoot function. Chief Gerke, you're dressed up today.
Really?
Had a funeral this afternoon.
Oh, that's good. That could be a joke.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. You look nice.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is very simply a request to accept a donation of $140,000 from Bustin' for Badges Clay Shoot. It is the nation's largest clay shoot that benefits law enforcement, and it's just an amazing thing how it's grown over the years. And it really, when we speak at the clay shoot, I've mentioned that money is great. It is. But the real benefit that I see is that the men and women that are the boots on the ground that do this work day in and day out, they see this support and it means something to them.
That's great.
So we're very grateful for the people that volunteer and the people that come out and participate.
Chief, the amount of that OPD is receiving is 140.
Yes, sir.
How many slices? Is there?
No, that's our slice.
No, I know that. But this 140 is sliced out. There's more. Everybody else, how many other agencies are getting the same amount?
There's 3 other agencies. So OPD gets 140, Midland PD gets 140, Ector County Sheriff's Office gets 140, and Midland County Sheriff's
4
Office.
agencies receiving 140,000.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the generosity of this community.
Absolutely.
And let me tell you, it is very appreciated.
If you've never been out there, it's something to see.
It's something else to see.
Yeah,
It
It's
really
incredible. Council, do you have any questions for the chief? Comments?
No, Chief, last time, if I remember, it was K-9, little bomb training, some equipment. Do you have any plans for this money?
So yeah, this year, Bustin' for Badges kind of changed the way we allocate these funds. They wanted us to allocate most of those funds up front. And what we did, we're going to spend most of it on some software that upgrades our real-time intelligence center. We're also going to use some for bullet-resistant vests and some for crowd control equipment.
Excellent.
Any further questions?
No.
Statements, comments? If not, entertain a motion to accept, appropriate, and appropriate.
So moved.
$140,000. This is Councilman Cornell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mata. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicating same sign. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Still look nice.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item 12, consider an economic development performance agreement between the Odessa Development Corporation, Rental King LLC resolution. Mr. Russell?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Crows. Apologize for not being here. He had a daughter in a car accident in Granbury, so they're down there. But this is a performance agreement between Rental King LLC. It is for a total amount of $210,000. As a part of the grant application, Rental King has committed to make expenditures for property improvements of $2.1 million and also to create 12 full-time equivalent positions with a minimum payroll of $275,000. This was approved in the June ODC meeting, and so we bring it to you guys for consideration and finalization.
I appreciate it. Council, do we have any comments or questions on this item?
What is the, what did they qualify for?
Well, they asked for the 210. That's
That
what
wasn't
we.
my question.
Well,
My question was, what did they qualify for?
well, according to the compliance committee member who presented at the ODC meeting, they actually qualified for about $625,000, but they only asked for $210,000. That's what they were approved for.
Is Chris Voss? Is Chris Voss here? Chris Voss? Voss, I'm sorry. It's Vore? I'm sorry. Come on up.
Hey, Chris Vore, representing Rental King, Mayor, Council. Chris, appreciate working with the ODC. They've been fantastic. Great program to get good businesses to come to Odessa and Ector County. So appreciate that. We applied for the money. We initially applied for that $200,000 and a little bit, feeling like that was all we needed to be able to get over the hump to have this approved. After that, we went to our lender, got documentation back. The lender, which happens to be American Momentum, said, hey, we need to see more strength here. We don't think that we can approve this $2.1 million project, which we'd really like to build in Ector County. We're currently in Midland County. It's right across from Family Dollar on I-20. Fantastic facility. It's going to be beautiful if we can get there. But as we visited with the banker, they said, well, you think there's anything you can do to get us over the hump to get this deal approved? And I mentioned that I'd been at the ODC meeting, that we had qualified for more than we had actually asked for, and that perhaps that could get us there, and he indicated that probably would get us there. So that's why we are going back to the ODC to say, hey, can we get that full amount so we can get approved and get here to Odessa?
Mr. Vore, let me ask you a question. You applied for the 210 at the moment, and when did that application process start?
That would have been maybe April, May.
Okay. And then when did you go to the compliance committee, and then it moved, because it was approved in the June meeting for the ODC.
Correct.
When was the presentation done in the compliance committee where the 210 was discussed?
That at the June meeting.
Also, the compliance happened in June?
So if you're talking about the compliance, we sent in the application and they reviewed something. We don't really know what happens in that
Okay,
black
so you
box.
weren't there.
Right. But we did come to the meeting where it was actually
Which was
approved
June,
by the ODC.
and that was
correct.
the ODC. Okay.
Correct.
So when did the 636 come up?
The 636, it was discussed during that ODC meeting, and I was actually, it was mentioned by a couple of the people that, hey, if something does come up and that might come into play, then you might want to come back. At that time, we didn't really think there would be anything, but about 2 weeks later, we had our meeting with the bank, and they just said it doesn't look like this is going to happen.
So 2 weeks after the approval?
Correct.
The ODC is when the bank said that, the 210 won't get you to...
Correct.
And the money's for
the money is, so the money is to complete the construction of a $2.1 million facility. It will be the headquarters of the company. It includes bays to work on its heavy equipment rental. And we also did write into the application the intent to purchase more equipment. I think we mentioned $2 million. We received $2 million more in equipment this morning at the facility. We're aggressively growing. We want to grow, and we really would like to make Odessa our home. So.
Would you be moving from Midland County to Ector County, city of Odessa, or would you be establishing a second location?
It'd be moving from Midland County to Odessa.
Would you be opposed to restart the process? And
No,
go back to the
sure.
ODC and ask for additional money?
Sure, that'd be great.
Mr. Russell, let me ask a question here. One of the discussions that I had with Ms. Robinson, who I appointed on the ODC, I asked a few questions. First, this started by I received a text message, and somebody said, "Hey, you need to check into Rental King." I didn't know what Rental King was. My response: "What's Rental King?" A lot of people from the ODC were either on vacation or somewhere else. I called the director and asked the question, brief me on Rental King. He said, "Send you the application." Perfect. Got the application, sent it over to me on a, text it over, reviewed it. I said, "Well, walk me through it." And so, from my understanding was, and then I wind up speaking to Mr. Robinson, is that the applicant was flawless. The applicant was flawless, and they, at the time that it was approved in June, they'd only applied for 210, and that only the 636 became known at that meeting. And
At the July meeting.
That,
Well, yeah, they
June
qualified,
meeting.
yes, you're right.
Yes.
Correct, at the June meeting.
Right, at the June meeting.
Yes, correct.
And it was at the meeting that number came up, and that the ODC's, well, what's on the minutes is that the ODC wasn't disposed to reward more. Now, Mr. Robinson said that there had been a previous situation in compliance with another project where it seemed like somebody within compliance was lobbying for companies to come in for more money than they qualified. I said, "I don't know anything about that." I said, "But that's not my question." If there are, and there was kind of a hint that there was a concern with members of the ODC about that. And I said, well, the compliance committee was a creation of the board of the ODC, not the city council. And so this, and no one on the city council appoints compliance members at all. That comes from ODC members. That's a layer of bureaucracy that was created by the board of the ODC. And there used to be more layers of it back in 1996 when it was created. So it's actually reduced, but nonetheless. So I kind of dismissed it. I said, that's something for the ODC to deal with. What I'm asking a question here, Mr. Robinson, and I believe I asked you, is that, is it a possibility, if at the request of the applicant, if they're willing to go back and restart the process and reapply for the 636? Now, another point that was brought up, that the reason why it was not considered or viewed, and the 210 was, since it had already been approved, because the applicant didn't change. So the numbers were the same for the 210. So my question to you, if you can answer this, what would have to change in those overall numbers? They received $2 million in equipment today. That what I don't know if that was in the applicant or not, I don't know. But you know, there was a moving of the corporation. There is a land purchase, and then a building in excess of $600,000. Is that correct? And then the creation of 12 jobs at $275,000. Is that correct? And so, what needs to change in those numbers to make that more of attractive at the 636 that they would have to do?
Sure. And let me be clear. Let me step you back into the July ODC meeting, because when this came up, the July meeting, when the revised application came up. So in July, we did get a revised application for Rental King. We had approved it in June for 210. We got a revised application in the July meeting for the increased amount. As 625, 636, somewhere like that, yes. And so we questioned at the time okay, why the change? Because we didn't see any change in the scope of the project. We didn't see any additional capital investment listed. We didn't see any additional jobs listed. The entire board pretty rigorously asked questions about why are we seeing this, and there was no real new information. So the board's feeling was that as part of the ODC board's responsibility of spending taxpayer dollars, we're basically negotiating on the behalf of the taxpayers and citizens who put that money into the Economic Development Fund. So we were like, okay, and the general gist of it was, okay, why, what has changed? What has caused us to increase request? And there was no new information. Now, Mr. Voss just shared something tonight that we did not know because it wasn't brought forward at that meeting, was that he's having some difficulty getting all of his financing lined up because he needed a little more cash up front. That was unknown to us at that July meeting when the secondary request for the 636 came up. I think the ODC board is always interested in running down the lead, listening to everybody, trying to do the very best that we could. It was a unanimous vote that day that the additional request would be denied. There was no dissension in the board, and it was largely, there was no new information presented at that meeting to us.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair for Chris to say. I was unaware of the time of the meeting. I had discussed with the staff at ODC, but another timing of a different meeting hadn't come up, or I would have been glad to come to that meeting and talk to it. But I thought we had communicated some of that ahead of time, but I don't blame the ODC at all. If they didn't have that information, I probably would have voted the same way. So.
You basically said that you didn't talk to the bank till 2 weeks afterwards.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So this is going to be my last question. Is there a possibility? Because here's two thought process. I called and I spoke to you and I asked, walk me through what's going on. Why the 210? What would the 210 get you, and why was that? And then why the 636? And you basically told me, hey, the bank says, I don't think we can get you there with 210. We need the 636. And so I asked you if you were unopposed to restart the whole process, add this component back into it, and go through the process. You said, no, we gladly do it. I didn't. I wanted you to come over to be able to explain this, because we're all hearing this for the first time. There was a point of contention that when I had spoken to the director, there was a communication where he's saying that I was upset. There's nothing to be upset. There's no one's upset. Didn't know about the project. I asked for a briefing. I was given the contract. It was cut and dry. Made a couple of phone calls, got the details, and said, hey, can we discuss this here at City Council? And I want to leave it up to you and your company and Mr. King to make that decision. What's the best route for you is what I want to leave it at.
Okay, I appreciate that. At this point, I think if it is okay with you, we'd be happy to table this or to move on and reapply and let the ODC have all the information before them to make what they feel is the best decision for Odessa.
What's your timing in this whole project here? What's your timing?
If everything were to go smoothly, we could begin construction fall of this year.
Okay. Council, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just open up the ask for any questioning.
I too asked my representative on the ODC board about this situation. I watched the ODC meeting where the compliance committee got up and talked about the qualification amount, the 636. My representative gave me the same answer that Mr. Russell just gave us, that they didn't come forth with anything additional. And I said, but that doesn't make any sense. What compliance said was what they brought to you was available for the 636. Why did you only give them 210? Well, that's what they asked for, and they're happy. We got in a pretty heated debate, and anybody that knows David Boutan, he's my appointment. It was nothing personal. There's a flawed process in ODC's application. Nobody knows what the matrix is. Proprietary information. We want to keep it secret, hide it. So my suggestion to anybody that asks me going forward, if they're going to make application to ODC, and I'll put this on the record, that piece of the application needs to be eliminated, and that they need to put on that line, all I can get. Because it's not fair for somebody to come in blind and, you know, in David's comment from us, we saved ODC $400,000. My comment back to David was, it's not your money to save. Your job is to spend it and to bring business to Odessa. These folks need help, and it's a viable project. You've already admitted that. So we left it there, and we're not mad at each other. We had another conversation last night about it. And I just think it's a flawed process with ODC. And Mr. Crow made a comment in his article last week on another subject that the ODC is fiduciaries of that money, and they are not. This council's fiduciaries of that money. We're the ones that decide, and we put the people on that ODC board to try to do the right thing, and that's not happening in a lot of instances. And I'm pretty upset about it because I think it's just a flawed process, and I guess, and that's demonstrated by the amount of revenues that ODC has in its coffers that is just sitting there. So with that being said, I think anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Mr. Thompson's comment?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I think the matrix has always been a guideline. It is, and we're very clear about that. It's a starting framework. It's a way to kind of start working through the numbers. The matrix itself is not set in stone. I also think you have a real risk here, and I'm going to give you a very specific example. The 1.5 project, Oxy asked for $2 million. They actually qualified under the matrix, when you just looked at the raw, for a little over $20 million. They didn't ask for that. They asked for 2. They were awarded 2. It's a great project. We're happy to have them out there. But they didn't ask for more than that. I do not understand, and I do believe that there is, I'll take exception a little bit, I do believe that there is some fiduciary responsibility on the part of the ODC board to do the very best that we can with the resources that we have. And when you look at something like the Oxy project, hey guys, you can get $20 million. Would that have added 1 job? Would that have added 1 more dollar of capital improvement? No, no, and no. So I think it's a little bit of a tricky slope. The compliance committee does a lot of work, a lot of groundwork. They review the documents. They do a lot of work to get these things ready to come forward, including working very carefully with the applicants. But I don't understand I guess as a taxpayer, I don't really understand the logic of someone coming in and asking for X, and you say, oh, no, you should get Y.
Well, y'all made that very clear at that meeting, and I understand it. But, what I didn't understand is why there was a pushback because we asked questions. We were not aware. We're not on the compliance committee. We're not part of the process. We're unaware.
There was pushback when you asked questions, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where'd the pushback?
Let me finish my thought.
Okay. Let
me finish my thought because you're not part of that conversation. So what I didn't understand is that I asked a simple question. The simple question was this: brief me on this project. I asked the director for that, and that's simply all I wanted. Wind up calling David, referred me to Chris, asked him the questions. He gave me that information. I invited him over to be able to explain in a very transparent way for the council, for we can all understand. And that's the process where we're at. I called my appointee, asked him for his thought process. He said he started the conversation down that road. And so, but he basically told me if they would have asked for $1 million, better give it $1 million, but they didn't. There was and he basically mirrored what he said. There was a lot of work put by his staff that went through that, and nothing changed when it went from 210 to 636. I said, that's fine. I get that. I said, let me ask this question. Would you be opposed if they went back through the process? He goes, not at all. We'll work through it. I said,
Sure.
That's
Sure.
all I was asking. And that's what the question is here tonight. So what I'd like to ask right now, if you don't mind, we got Tina here. Even though the city is not part of the process, Tina's probably the most knowledgeable in this room. What would that process be for Rental King to go through that? Could you walk the council through that? In going back and, so what actions would the council have to take in getting that process to start over through, whether it goes back to the ODC? Does it go back to the ODC and then they send a complaint? What happens, if you don't mind getting on the microphone? I'm sorry about putting you on the spot.
From my understanding, if we're starting over again, they would submit the application to compliance. They would have the meeting again, bring it back to the ODC. The ODC would have their discussions. As far as the council right now, Dan, if I'm correct, I believe you'd need to table it. And then with a recommendation that the applicant go back through the process again. That's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So Dan,
we would need to table it.
just table it for the, and with the recommendation that it go back through the process.
Right.
Where they submit a new application.
New application asking for the 636, and then of course compliance will look at it, then ODC will look at it, and then it will come back to y'all hopefully by the end of next month.
Chris?
If that's, hopefully that's doable.
That sounds great. We're happy to do that.
Have you spoken to Mr. King about this?
Yes, I have.
What's this?
David concurs that we'd be willing to do that.
Mr. Mata?
Well, I also want to just make a point too that with the 1.5 project, while they were, according to the matrix, qualified for 10 times the amount, at 20 million, they didn't come back and ask for additional funds. That's a big difference between 1.5 and Rental King. Once y'all found out that you did it and you had a conversation with the bank and said that y'all did need some more capital, some more help with that, y'all came back and asked for it. So I think that's a big difference in that comparison too.
The problem I have with it is that we're going to end up in the same place, because the application is going to have a blank that says how much you're applying for. You're going to put 636 on there. And they're going to say, you didn't bring anything else to the table. Now, we learned tonight there's $2 million more coming. But if nothing changed, you still qualify for 636.
But there is some information that
there
the
is.
bank.
Some very critical information.
Yeah. The bank is
our
basically
job,
saying.
our job on ODC is to bring businesses into our community and help them to be successful, whether it's through a new business grant or through a business retention and expansion grant or whatever. I mean, we are always, but when we're not presented with anything new, which we were not in the July meeting, then it's like, okay, it's a head scratcher. Okay, why are we contemplating this?
Because compliance said they qualify for 636. I guess that's my point. You totally ignored compliance. Totally.
Well, no, compliance, the proposal that compliance brought forward to us originally was $210,000 based upon the parameters of the capital investment and the number of jobs created. That's what ODC
But they qualified for 636 because they put on the application the $200,000 number. And that's where the process is flawed.
I guess I'll agree to disagree on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will.
Okay. So action is basically tabling it for it to be presented. Okay.
Need a motion and a second, goes to vote on it, table it.
Okay. Council,
With the recommendation that he reapply, Rental King reapply, and then compliance take a look at it, and then it goes back to the ODC board.
Chris, anything else you want to add?
No, I want to express appreciation to the council and also the ODC for the good work they're trying to do to get businesses here to Odessa.
Well, what we want to be able to communicate, to Mr. King is that we want you here. And we need to, I've always said this, is that we're not in business of no, and if you're going to tell somebody no, you need to be absolute of why. But this new culture that's here within the city is basically saying we're open for business, and we need to find a method for you to get through this maze sometimes that you get, whether it's ODC, whether it's anything that you go through, because if we don't make it easy, you're going to get up and go somewhere else, and we want you here. We want those jobs here. We want that quality type of companies that are coming here, and it's our responsibility to be able to find a way to happen, and how we doing it was through communication. When we are not talking to each other, we do not know, and we can't get this. And this is why I wanted this process to happen here in front of everyone. And so they're able to, you can see how it works. And then what we have to do, so we need a motion, council, excuse me for a second, we go and get this vote. A motion to table the item as presented, which is item 12, in the Development Performance Agreement between the Odessa Development Corporation and Rental King LLC, with the recommendation that they go back to the ODC and the compliance to reapply for a new application that would include the $636,000 from the original 210 to be able to apply for the 2.1 million. Is that what it is?
No. 636.
636.
Yeah,
No, the
so that-
636 is the application. What's the
The
what's the loan?
2.1 is the
Two-
investment.
It's a capital investment.
Capital investment, right?
12 FTEs.
Okay, and so I need a motion in that. Well, you know what, I'll make that as a motion. The panel can make a motion, I just need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item 12 presented. All those in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign. Motion is tabled. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to move on to ordinance item 13, consider the sale and conveyance of the old fire station number 6 to Megan Prado, Andrew Prado of Town and Country Drug. This is the second and final approval. Mr. Jones.
Mayor, council, I'm gonna make it short and sweet.
Thank you.
We're not gonna beat this dead horse anymore. You know I need a motion, a second, and a vote, and let's get this baby sold.
So moved.
I'm not going to recognize those motions. We're going to give the motion to the representative in that district.
There you go.
I so move. I have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicating the same sign. Motion is passed.
Yay.
Thank you,
Yay.
Jesus. Finally.
Got it done. Congratulations.
Okay. Where are we at now? For 270. Item 14, consider making an administrative correction on section 49 of the Home Rule Charter by adding the editor's note forced approval. Mr. Jones.
Mayor, council, another one that's short and sweet. Of course, in 2011, ordinance number 2011-26, it changed when city council was voted on from May to November. That never did reach the city charter as it should have, so we're just going to simply add an editor's note on section 49 to the home rule charter. And that will clarify that the election date is November.
Does everybody know exactly what we're talking about? You do? Okay. I was going to give you an explanation, but if you know.
Some that nodded. I did.
No?
Yeah, give me an explanation.
Oh, you need an explanation. So simple, there was a year where general elections were held in the city in May.
Yeah.
And they were then moved over to November. But both languages were left on the charter. But we've been following the November rule.
Right.
So instead of going and having it put in an initiative on the ballot,
Yep.
the
We're
legal
just
staff
gonna
came up with an
clean it up.
editor's note. And so we're doing it and handling it administratively through the council without having to go and spend a lot of money on the election. It's already expensive enough for one item that potentially could fail. So this is a way to be able to clean up bureaucracy efficiently. And so
That
thank
is
you
correct.
for us accomplishing that. And that's been on the books, and Tina has been saying, she's been harping on it ever since.
Forever.
And she'll be happy that we finally get to clean up. Let me tell you, the charter's about this thick, and that is a nano, basically, page that there's just so much to fix in that thing. Council, if there is no discussion, comments on item 14, consider a motion for approval.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Thompson, second by Councilmember Swanner. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicating by the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move on to item 15, consider calling for the 2024 general municipal election for November 5th, 2024. First approval. City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is calling the 2024 general municipal election as required by the Texas Election Code. It will call for mayor, council members, districts 1, 2, and at large to serve as a 4-year term, and it will also designate the early voting centers for the city. The city will participate in a joint election with other public entities, so the cost will be prorated.
Have we updated those numbers yet, or are we still at half?
We have not updated those numbers yet, but it will be less, so you'll be happy to know that.
Better. I'm not agreeing those numbers at all. And so I haven't agreed with them 4 years ago, and I'm not agreeing with them now. So, council, do we have any discussion? If not, entertain a motion for item 15 as proposed.
So moved.
A motion by Councilmember Cornell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mata. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicating same sign. Motion passed unanimously. We're going to move on to item 8, miscellaneous. Item 16, discuss, consider Odessa Development Corporation appointees removal, appointment, operations, and leadership changes. Council. I've got a statement to read as we go into this process, into this discussion. So, Odessa Development Corporation discussion, questions, and talking points. I'm going to ask again, can everybody hear me in the back room? Everybody good?
No,
So-
they're saying no.
No, you can't? Can you not hear me at all? Right here. Is it better? This is as good as I get. You know, I'm already up, and so I'll try to speak a little bit louder. So we've added this important item to the City Council agenda tonight to provide transparency to the people of Odessa. The Odessa Development Corporation, the ODC, focuses on Odessa's economic development, and it focuses on local business retention and expansion. The Odessa Development Corporation provides job creation grants, capital investment grants, and other incentive for businesses seeking to expand in Odessa, but also seeking to establish businesses in Odessa and job creation. The organization's services include certificates of origin, business counseling, and also real estate location. The mission of the Odessa Development Corporation, reason why I speak to this, because I had the opportunity to be able to create this, was create new jobs, to grow the tax base, promote business activity and expand the business compatible with Odessa, diversify the economy, help build a skilled and educated workforce in Odessa. The Odessa Development Corporation, then and now, was created by the city of Odessa, and we're not talking about the government. It was created by the people through a vote, and answers the city of Odessa City Council and the people of Odessa. It is the people on the Odessa Development Corporation board where all and have been and always will be appointed. But in order to provide an oversight and accountability, it is the Odessa City Council, which is all being elected by the people, has the final say. Currently, the Odessa Development Corporation has a balance of over $90 million in their coffers. And every penny of that came from the taxpayers. The City Council, I know I have, been frustrated for some time on a lack of proper communication between the board and the City Council. So tonight, we would like, and we're going to provide our Odessa residents with an open, a transparent discussion so that everyone within this room, within this chamber, that are viewing us right now from close and afar, can understand how this money came to be, can be, and ultimately should be and must be spent. This is a statement I'd like to make. Our city council has been asking for a meeting between the city council and their legal staff and the Odessa Development Corporation and their lawyers since June 26. The reason why that is significant, June 26, it's because it was right after I spoke on a non-agenda item with the ODC. It was a repeated request, and for some reason, I want to be able to find out tonight why that's been denied. As we have assessed particular projects, there's been a lot of confusion as to when the ODC money can be legally used versus is potentially being used outside legal parameters. We on the council, we as citizens, we're fully committed to using these ODC funds in compliance with the law, with the goal of attracting, recruiting, and luring the right businesses to Odessa. We've had recent successes following these rules, following this culture, following this. Successes which include Bass Pro, in which Odessa competed with our neighbor in Midland, and we won out. We as a council, we have worked extremely hard to make Odessa open for business and to create this tremendous business climate in the last 18 months. And we've been highly successful in accomplishing that. In the morning of on the morning of Friday, July 19th, ODC President Chris Crow called City Attorney Dan Jones and informed him that the attorney of the Odessa Development Corporation, Jeff Moore, was not allowed to communicate with the city of Odessa. This is where I'm going to add something. After I had spoken with the ODC at the request of members of the ODC to make a request after Mr. Thompson had gone and made an interview where he talked about revenue bonds. Mr. Thompson is not incorrect in that the ODC can issue revenue bonds. Where we may not completely 100% agree is there's no need for revenue bonds when you have in excess of $90 million. Now, that's okay. We agree to it. It's okay. We're fine with that. My question was this. There were several projects, whether it be Bass Pro, whether it be the complex, whether it be many projects that we were talking about. And let me walk through the complex real quickly. When that came and we proposed, went to the ODC to talk about the complex, we had several disagreements and discussions and debates about how we could get that accomplished using ODC money for infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer.
To a new project, awesome.
Which is a new project that would open up housing, jobs, within in the original creation of the corporation in 1995, 1996, the 4A resolves it to transportation, manufacturing, and warehousing. But as in 2003, as staff had presented, there was an attorney general that attorney general's opinion that we could use it for infrastructure. And that infrastructure varies. I mean, it's quite extensive. It's not a gray area. And so we discussed that. And many times there was pushback saying, no, does not qualify. It pushed us back, and not only that, it delayed the project by more than a year. We were very frustrated. We debated it, we argued it, and we created the committee. We created the Quality of Life Committee, and over again, we couldn't get past this, to the point that the city council was then forced to go back to Mr. Bell and to create a light industrial district beyond the city limits of the city of Odessa in Ector County, which it can. But it incurred another layer of bureaucracy that we needed to do. And to this day, we did not have to do it. But we wanted to be able to work with the ODC. But we were pushed to be able to do this, and they said they would not participate because of this. It was then I was told by Mr. Crow that the city council do not use or believe that the ODC was a piggy bank for the city council to use on any other project, because they still knew we had infrastructure and drainage issues on the LCA properties that were caused by not putting parameters of drainage to the development to the north of 191. That now is costing the city, because we're doing all those repairs on Fadre to the tune of $36 million, which is debt. So that was another debate. And the frustration continued to grow. But what was really disturbing is that immediately after we had and we spoke to the ODC, and in that request on non-agenda items, I asked for this. I asked for very smart people on the ODC to find a legal means through our legislature to find a way that we could use money that's already in the coffers, in excess of $90 million, legislatively, so we could use it for infrastructure that is existing now. Now, that's a process that will take about a year to 2 years. We were, immediately after we had the second break, 2 years apart, because everybody seems to be mashing what happened more than 2.5 years ago to what happened recently on Dawn in 42nd. It was the senator of Lubbock that had called, and it was Senator Charles Perry. He sent me an email, and I contacted Mr. Beckmeyer. It was at that time that we started the process to talk to the Water Board about applying for monies for infrastructure. I then instructed the city manager, informed the city council, and asked to spearhead what we needed to do to be able to get those monies. I immediately then asked our city secretary to contact Jeff Moore to, one, organize a meeting with myself, the mayor's office, city manager, Mr. Thompson, city attorney, Mr. Niles and his staff to identify critical infrastructure with our water and sewer and valves of how we could assess using existing ODC money. I was then told in person, and then later through an email, but in person I was told, no. That lawyer's mine. He works for the ODC and not the city. You're not to call. The city manager's not to call. The city attorney is not to call. And Mr. Thompson's not to call. And no one from the city council. The accountability begins and ends with this city council. I then instructed our city secretary to no longer contact Mr. Moore, but Mr. Crow asked me to go through him, and he said, I'm not micromanaging, but you need to come through me. City secretary sent an email June 26, and yet we have not gotten a response to be able to get everybody in the room. My mom always said, todos los mentirosos en un cuarto. Get all the liars in one room. That way you have an open discussion. Everybody holds each other accountable. This is something that it's not festering, but we can't have this. And this is why we need to have this discussion tonight. It's unfortunate we don't have everyone in the room, but I still believe that this discussion is important. This is the statement I have to say. This is all I've got. I will open it up to the council. If anybody wants on the dais to continue this discussion, ask questions of me or anyone. And so, but let's have this open discussion if you don't mind.
I do. I have a few things I'd like to share also about this topic.
Let's get through there, and I'll recognize people from.
You can go on the state controller's website, and it lists the different projects that are available that Type A and Type B EDCs can do. And it very clearly states here that, I'll just read it. EDCs may use Type A revenue to fund land, buildings, equipment, facilities expenditures, targeted infrastructure, and improvements for projects, including infrastructure improvements that promote or develop new or expanded business enterprises. So we all know here who are present and those who aren't present that one of our biggest problems that we're facing right now is our infrastructure. It's old, it's aging, and it's not getting any better by the second. It's getting worse. This is kind of the impetus where we're at now that, we're at the point now where if we're not being helped, we're being hindered. And the mayor spoke about the sports complex and the obstacles that we have to face for that. It's promoting and developing new and expanded businesses and enterprises. So that should have been an easy call for that. But, we did what we had to do to get the project rolling. Another thing that came up that just really put a bad taste was that email that we got that our city attorney, Dan Jones, sent to us, basically saying that we didn't have the right to speak to the ODC's attorney.
Jeff Moore.
Jeff Moore. And that just, if we can't communicate with our ODC board members, and we can't communicate with the attorney, that's some big problems that we have right there. The lack of communication has been a problem. So I got a few questions, and I know that Mr. Russell's here, and hopefully he can answer some of these. But my first question here is, how long has Odessa City Council been attempting to get a meeting where we can have all relevant parties in the same room? And is it true that the ODC threatened their ODC attorney, Jeff Moore, that he would be fired if he communicates with the City of Odessa City Council, staff, or the attorney? Was the City of Odessa attorney, Dan Jones, can't read my writing, contacted to let him know in no uncertain terms that there would be no contact with ODC attorney Jeff Moore? If yes, what was the need for that? What was trying to be accomplished during that moment? Is it fair to say that there has been some confusion as to when ODC funds can be utilized? And that question comes up because at one point we asked about using ODC funds for our infrastructure problems, and we were told resoundingly no, that it can't be. It only goes to, it can only be used for new projects, which when we were bringing the sports complex, that was told no also, which was a new project. So then a few months back, we're told that, after speaking to our ODC attorney, y'all can use the money for infrastructure repairs. And that's what we're talking about. We wanted to get all together in a group because we're hearing two different things. We're hearing, yes, you can, no, you can't. Which one's the right one? Because as the mayor said in the beginning, we want to make sure that we're expending these monies the correct way, that we're doing it legally, that we're not doing anything illegal, because that's not the way that we operate. Next question, why would you not allow us to have a joint meeting so we can discuss it and come up with a solution? And finally, my last question, how can the people of Odessa trust that these funds will be used properly unless we have solid, open, and honest communications? More of a statement. So that's all I have.
Mr. Russell?
Sure. I'll try to take those one at a time. There's a lot there to unpack. And as Paul Harvey would say, I'd like to give you the rest of the story on a lot of it.
Well, let's start with question one.
Okay, give me question one.
How long has the city council been attempting to get a meeting?
From what I understand, there was a request made around June 26th for a meeting. We had lots of members out of town at that point, and from what I understand, what Mr. Crow told me was he had asked Norma to try to set up another date and get that scheduled.
So,
And
Mr. Russell, you weren't there at Mr. Crow's office. Were you aware that he told me face to face that we were not to contact Jeff Moore? and that we needed to go through
Okay,
him.
that was not the first question, but I'll be glad to answer that one. Let me.
Since you're answering the question,
Sure.
were you there? Were you present?
I was on the call with Jeff Moore when Mr. Moore was instructed to deal with the ODC board president, following a proper chain of command. Here's the reason why that came up. Mark alluded to it. We get into this he said, she said stuff. It has happened repeatedly because we'll have conversations with Jeff Moore as the ODC board. He will tell us something. We'll move forward on that information, and then we have Mr. Thompson or Mr. Beckmeyer, or Mr. Mayor, or whoever it is, come and say, "Oh no, that's not what he told me. That's not what he told me." And so it's just breeding this nest of confusion. You talk about openness and transparency, and all. I mean, it was just becoming a confusing mess. I'll give you a really good example. If you'll note on our June 13th, 2024 ODC agenda, item number 10 is exactly this. Discuss and consider an infrastructure grant for the replacement and/or repair of critical water infrastructure. Mr. Crowe and I put that agenda item on the agenda for that day with the intent of asking the board to take the $18 million as a starting point, the $18 million that we had just deallocated or removed from the Nacero project, and to use that to provide infrastructure support for the city of Odessa, particularly the replacement of water lines and valves. Before we could ever even get hardly going with it, Mr. Beckmeyer hustles to the mic and says, "You can't legally do that." Didn't let us get much past that point because now we're confused. Mr. Beckmeyer has apparently been talking to Dan or to Jeff Moore or whoever it was, and now we're confused. You know, come to find out, Mr. Beckmeyer was exactly 100% wrong, just like he was 100% wrong when he cornered me after a city council meeting and said, "Hey, you guys can help fund the sports complex."
Now, I'm going to stop you here.
Did we not have that conversation? You said.
Russell, let him speak.
I'm going to stop you here. You were wrong. You were going to try to take and complete a situation that would allow you to look like you could spend that money. You explained it right here. Then the mayor showed you where you were going to say, okay, this pipe runs all the way out to the or to the new area out here.
How do you know what we were going to say, Mr.
Because
Beckmeyer? Because we never had an opportunity to explain
it right
that.
up here at the dais. You explained it. That's how.
When did I explain it at the dais?
Right after I said that.
I have a memo. I have a memo from Mr. Jeff Moore.
Anyhow,
that lists three different ways.
And what did
different ways, Mr. Beckmeyer,
and what did
that we can
exactly
legally.
did I say right then? If you want to do it that way, I'll take any money you can give me. But I don't want to get in a situation where these guys are going to have to pay money back.
Well, this leads to the confusion that we've had with everybody talking to the ODC attorney.
The day before, Jeff Moore said, you can only do that if there's new project there.
So,
that was his direct words.
Mr. Russell, you said you have from Jeff Moore a memorandum. When is that dated?
Yes, dated July the 12th, because after that
July
meeting, we
12th?
went back to Mr. Moore and said, could you please.
That memorandum is dated July 12th?
Yes.
Did you invite me to that conversation?
No, because there was no need. We were trying to get our ducks.
There was a need. You're saying that I was wrong when Jeff Moore said the opposite the day before that I spoke to ODC.
Well, I don't know what your conversation was Mr. Moore, or why you would be having a conversation with the ODC attorney. I mean, I'm sorry. This is what breeds confusion, and this has happened repeatedly with everybody wanting to call Jeff Moore.
Point of order, please.
Point of order recognized.
So we have an agreement here from Jeff Moore, and I'm going to read this specifically because I'm tired of the back and forth. It says, we understand as attorneys for ODC that our present relationship is to represent and provide legal counsel to the city of Odessa and the city attorney on as needed basis. So that gives us authority to speak to Jeff Moore anytime this council would like. So the fact of the matter is that we are told that we cannot talk to Jeff Moore is unacceptable.
Thank you.
That's fine, keep talking to them, and we'll keep being confused, and we'll keep having
But this is
37
where-
stories
this is-
out.
This is where we're
we need
at,
to
though.
get
is
everybody.
We've
Yeah,
asked
sure, this is where we're at.
We've asked for numerous meetings. It doesn't have to be with all of the members of
Mark,
ODC and all the members of
early this
council.
early this year, I believe it was in about January, we had a joint public meeting out at UTV. We invited the public, we invited all of you guys there. Jeff Moore was here on site, on the ground. We were there for the entire day. Everyone was invited to come, ask questions, do what you want, learn what you want. And so that's just a totally
Not at all.
erroneous statement that the ODC board has not been open.
You're conflating things again. You're talking about a public meeting, not a meeting with individuals with Jeff Moore. That's
All that
what
was needed was
asked
a meeting
for.
between the city manager, the mayor, ODC attorney, our attorney, and
Let me ask the
Chris
city
Crowe.
secretary, when you asked for a June 26th meeting, and Mr. Crowe told you that many of our members are out of pocket on vacation and whatnot, and asked you to reschedule, did you attempt to reschedule?
I don't recall him. The last email I got was that he could not get the time. That was the last I heard in regards to that meeting.
So here's the question. You said you had a memorandum with 3 items of how, and this was dated July 12th. Is that
July
correct?
12th, after our last meeting, when we had it queued up on the deal, and Mr. Beckmeyer told us, no, we can't do that. We went back, we went back.
Did you invite anyone from this dais to that meeting?
No, because we were getting it
Do we
ready
know
to
how the
present.
questions were presented at that meeting?
I can read you the memorandum. It's very simple and very clear. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to read what he wrote to us in a memorandum to the board.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and read that and enter it to the record. This is a memorandum posed to the question by Chris Crowe, President, Vice President Jeffrey Russell, on the ODC to Jeff Moore of how legally you could use ODC money for existing infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay, and this is
And
July
I'll-
12th.
July the 12th.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And so I won't read the entire deal because it quotes some sections of the code. First section it quotes is section 501.103 of the Texas Government Code. Currently authorizes expenditures on infrastructure in retail, commercial, or industrial areas of the city. And section 50, I'll go ahead and read it. Section 501.103 of the Texas Local Government Code already authorizes the ODC to fund infrastructure projects such as water and sewer improvements if the expenditure will promote new or expanded business development. Thus, the
There you
ODC can
go.
directly fund water and sewer infrastructure in retail, commercial, or industrial areas of the city if it will promote new or expanded business development consistent with section 501.103 of the Texas Government Code. He attaches the deal. That said, the ODC could not fund the infrastructure in residential areas of the city because it would not promote new or expanded business development. In addition, in areas of the city where the infrastructure will be used for both residential and business purposes, my opinion is to fund the infrastructure on a percentage basis. The percentage that will be used for new or expanded business development consistent with section 501.103 of the Texas Government Code.
So you just proved the point that I made at the meeting because I read the same section to Jeff Moore. We talked about the exact same section. So right across the street from where we had one break, I believe there's Taco Villa or Taco Bell, something like that. It's not a new or expanded business. Where we need the help, we're not putting new or expanded businesses. The idea that you had that it ran from there to an area where there would be new and expanded businesses was shown to be wrong because it doesn't. So really,
Well, no,
really, you just proved the point that we were making to begin with.
No, I'm sorry, you totally misread that, Mr. Beckmeyer, and what I'm saying. This is, we had talked about a number of scenarios, but when we went back to Mr. Moore, he said, yes, you could do that. He said, we specifically address the 42nd Street lines that go throughout that entire area. It's not one line, it's many lines. And he said, look, as long as those are attached to businesses,
Businesses.
Businesses.
Existing businesses.
Existing businesses.
Because that
He said
was
you
the
can develop it on a
exact-
percentage basis. He said you can figure out, and he said there's probably a lot of ways you can get to the proper percentage of water usage, percentage of connections.
When you say percentage of what? New business that it's going to bring in?
No, if under the what Mr. Moore told us was that under this section, if there are businesses in the area and there's critical infrastructure that needs replacement, let's say that these water lines service a mix of commercial, industrial, and residential areas.
What you just read said new business.
Let me keep going.
And
let me keep going.
That was the exact question that I posed to him because I wanted to come to you guys to ask for money. He said if there's no new development, it doesn't meet the criteria.
Okay, there are two other ways. Voters approve water supply facilities or water conservation projects at an election. So we can call an election. And it goes through that scenario. And then the third way was, we asked, because we're trying to get creative, we're trying to do what we can do to help the city, because I agree 100%. I hate the fact that we have $90 million of unallocated funds, actually about 80 unallocated funds, sitting in the ODC accounts. It's been sitting there for a long time. We've funded lots of projects, but the reality of it is we're taking in more money than we can find good projects to help fund. And it kills me to have that money sitting there when it could be put to use in ways that would help the entire city. And so we're thinking about creative. We ask them, could we actually loan that money to the city somehow if we can't get there any other way, and could we come up with that way? The idea was that, we have talked to Mr. Landgraf. You guys were on that call with the Texas Water Board, and we were too. To see if there is something that we can do as an intermediate step that we could then go and work with Mr. Landgraf and Mr. Sparks to pass legislation that would allow us to expand the use of that beyond maybe what's even currently allowed. So, I think the notion that we've been trying to, hang on to the money and keep it in our coffers and all, couldn't be further from the truth. We've come up with everything that we can think of as a legal means in order to help the city fund this infrastructure. Because here's the reality of it is, and this we know, and this is, we talked to Mr. Moore, if our city goes without water, our businesses are impacted.
Mm-hmm.
It impacts our sales tax. It impacts the revenue of those businesses. It impacts everything.
We have a second question.
Let's move on to the second question, because we can beat this dead horse to death. Is it true that the ODC attorney, Jeff Moore, was threatened that he would be fired if he communicated with the City of Odessa Council staff or attorney?
I don't believe that's true. I don't recall that being said. He was given instruction that you need to work with the ODC board and let the ODC board president set up any meetings and that kind of stuff.
Let me make this statement because you weren't there. Once again, I was told by Mr. Crow in his office that Jeff Moore worked for the ODC. They pay the bills. We pay the bills. And Mr. Beckmeyer's calling him, Mayor's calling him, Mr. Thompson's calling him, Dan Jones is calling him. And I'm gonna fire his ass if this continues. You weren't there. Can you answer that question?
I wasn't there.
Okay. So this happened, and then there was an email that came in. There was a phone call to Mr. Jones in the middle of the night, and it had to do with the rental king. And in that bottom, as you go through the series, once again, it's reiterated about how we are not to contact Mr. Moore, even though we have an original agreement that Mr. Moore will counsel the city staff. The reason Mr. Beckmeyer contacted Mr. Moore was at my request, and this based on this conversation. We mentioned several projects that started with the complex and LCA where the Bass Pro is. We're constantly told that, and even prior to that, a year's worth of work, the staff is sitting right here, a year's worth of work at the request of the ODC, particularly the president, Mr. Crow, about first responding housing, and the ODC would pay into that money. Recall that before we even got on the council, there was $5 million dedicated to that. Spoke to you, Mr. Russell, when we had accomplished it. Got the company to buy escrow and finalizing the whole land purchase and everything, and you told me we're not doing that, we can't do that, and we can't do that legally. The staff expended over a year's worth of work, and we were never instructed that the ODC had no intentions to help the city, to help with affordable housing, which is direly needed.
Sure it is.
But
sure it is.
A year's worth of work. Now,
but again, you go back to the law, Mr. Mayor.
I'm speaking, please. So you can't speak to the fact that Mr. Crow said that because you weren't there. You can't speak to that.
And he can't either.
No, who can't?
He can't.
No, I know that. That's what I mean. He cannot speak to that.
He's sitting here harping on this.
No, but well, Mr. Russell made himself available to speak for Mr. Crow as a proxy. He doesn't have to do that. But there are some conversations that me and Mr. Russell did have. So when I spoke, and let me get to that. When I got to that point and I spoke to Mr. Russell specifically about the new infrastructure, because I wanted to know, I asked this question, I want to get in the room with Mr. Moore. I want to hear how Mr. Crow posed the question to Mr. Moore about how this is the infrastructure we're talking about. I don't see any businesses here. And that's what concerned me. And that's what I asked Mr. Beckmeyer to ask the question. Call Mr. Moore, ask him the question.
So those lines that you show there are not connected to any businesses along the length of that entire line?
You show me where?
Well, on that aerial I can't because that's a very zoomed in aerial.
I used that in demonstration. I used that in a demonstration in the ODC. Okay? And I asked the question, show me which line connects to a business and industrial. You said, well, it affects it because if we shut down the water and the water plant affects it. I said, that wasn't the question. Show me where it connects it, because both you and Mr. Crow always said it has to have an end user. That's why we created the light industrial district in the complex at y'all's request, because it needed to have an end user. Even though the Attorney General 2003 say we could do infrastructure, which we wind up doing on Bushman's property, where 18 acres of that goes to Bass Pro. So my question then back, how can we do this? I just want to hear the question, and we could not get there. Even though you had in a memorandum, an opinion,
dated July
on
the 12th.
July 12th, when I requested the meeting on the 26th.
No, June the 26th.
July 26th. June 26th. Why wasn't that ever given to us?
Because we've just gotten it, and we haven't had an ODC board meeting.
June 26th, Mr. Russell. Why couldn't that afford it to the council? If we could not talk to Mr. Moore, why couldn't that? What you've been in possession
do you not think it's appropriate that the ODC board president, when he receives information like this, to first take it to the ODC board before bringing it to city council? Would that not be an appropriate chain of command?
Let me ask you this. There's a board member of the ODC. Right? How many board members of the ODC do we have here? Come up here, sir. Let me ask you a question. Now, this is not a court of law. You don't have to answer any question. You can answer any other way. Were you aware of that?
No, sir.
You were not aware?
I'm sorry. Aware of the memorandum?
Yes.
I have not seen it, no, sir.
This is the first time you've heard it?
Yes.
Counsel, is this the first time you've heard it?
Yep.
Mr. Russell?
Yeah.
You said, isn't it appropriate for the president of the ODC to take it to his board? Yet you have a board member right here has not heard of it. Can you explain that?
And typically we do that at board meetings. That's where
You
we
just
take
had a board
information to
meeting.
not since July the 15th or 12th. We didn't have time to get that on the agenda. We didn't have time to present that to the board.
So,
But it can't
only you and Mr. Crow spoke to Mr. Moore.
At this point, yes.
Mr. Harry, let me ask you another question. me and you had a conversation about Easy Rider, and that topic came up earlier.
Yes, sir.
You asked me a question, because we serve, both Mr. Mata, myself, and Ms. Manda serve on the Easy Rider board.
Yes, sir.
It was, as your president of Easy Rider, you asked a question, whether ODC could use money for transportation.
Yes, sir.
You read in council, enter to the record how, and we all agreed, while we read it in layman's terms, that how it qualifies.
Correct.
You asked what I thought. I said, you can ask, I would ask the president. And I said, but you're gonna have to go through and through Jeff Moore. You responded to me and asked if this is correct, that you don't have access to Mr. Moore because you have to go through the president. Is that correct?
Mr. Crow asked me to email him as the process for doing that.
And
that's
so
what we did.
only Mr. Crow can speak to Mr. Moore, even as you as a board member.
That's how I understand the process, yes, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And let me also bring up this point here too, that we just got notification yesterday about a special meeting that's going to be called, an ODC special meeting to, for the funding for UTPB. Now, we know that's important. They need their funding for that study they're going to do. But God, how dire is it, our infrastructure right now, that we know that it's failing us right now? Why couldn't a special meeting been called to discuss this? Just the way there's a special meeting
Sure,
called
it could
to
have, but I
discuss
tell you what,
UTPB.
the ODC board is getting tired, and I'll just speak for me. I'm getting tired of having our head bashed about with this idea and that idea. No, you can't do that. No. I mean, we were trying to get our ducks in a row before we brought this forward. Mr. Moore laid out three possible options. We wanted to get our ducks in the row so that when we brought it before the ODC board, before we brought it before, and then ultimately let ODC get their hands wrapped around it, so that we could present a real plan to city council, so that we didn't get into this endless back and forth of yes you can, no you can't. Well, I talked to Jeff Moore, I talked to this one, I talked to my bond attorney, I did this, I did that, I did all this. I mean, we were trying to get our hands wrapped around it so that we could present something to you guys. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing nefarious. Like I said, the ODC board has come up with, we've been trying to think, how can we do this? How can we do it within the confines of the law, up to and including the point of it, can we do something even if we can't do what we really want to do, which is to spend the money on infrastructure? Can we come up with other ways until maybe we can work with the next legislature, with our state senator and our state representative, to get some legislative language that would allow us to free up that money so that we could just outright spend it on this critical infrastructure. I mean, we've been down every rabbit hole that we can think of. And when you get into all these endless circular arguments of, well, he told me this and they told me that, and, we were honestly just trying to get our hands wrapped around it so that we didn't all look like a bunch of idiots.
So you and Crow have been basically a two-man show going through this whole process, not the board.
No, we
not
got
the
this
council.
July the 12th. Right before we went out of
Mr.
town.
Russell,
Both Mr. Crow and I were out
asked
of
a
town.
question.
No, that is not an accurate representation. No, sir.
So it's not been you two. The whole board's involved and the council's been involved since then in trying to come up with a plan.
Since July the 12th? No, we haven't had an opportunity to get with everybody.
Since July 26th and prior to 26.
Yes, we have
June
had many
26th.
discussions about it.
Who?
The entire board at times has had discussions. You can go back and look on our meeting notes. We had it queued up again to have a discussion on the June meeting.
Can you explain that? You said that twice. You said you had it queued up. What does that mean? You had what queued up for the meeting until Mr. Beckmeyer came out and says you couldn't do it. You said that before. Now you use that same
We
word,
thought
queued
we
up. What does
had
that mean?
we thought we had worked with Mr. Moore to present a plan to the ODC board that we thought would qualify.
Was this in June?
This was in June. That would qualify for the use of ODC money to support infrastructure. And our plan at that time was to ask the ODC board for the $18 million that we had deallocated from the Feldness-Arrow project to, as a first step, to slide that over so that we could get rolling on some of these needed infrastructure so that we didn't suffer yet another citywide outage. That was going to be the presentation to the board. We never really got to have that conversation because, again, we were told, no, can't do that. I've talked to your attorney. Well, we just talked to him too. And as he's come back and said, yes, there are ways to do that. You may have to allocate it, you may have to do it as a percentage basis or something, but yes, there are ways to do that.
Who was in
but-
those meetings?
Which meeting?
The ones you're talking about? With Mr. Moore?
It was me and Mr. Crow. We're the chair and the vice chair.
Okay. So it was just you two?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Herein lies the problem. When we agreed to let you have your own council, if you remember, I was vehemently against it. And this is exactly why. The problem here is Mr. Moore. Because Mr. Moore talks out of both sides of his mouth. Okay? When I ask about the revenue bonds, the excess cash, could we do it or not do it? I was at Mr. Jones's office. Mr. Moore sent it to us, chapter and verse, just like he did you, that yes, you can. You may do that and fund infrastructure, whatever you want to do. We have that email from Mr. Moore. I then contacted George Williford, our bond counsel, said, yes, you can do that, and you can go as long as 40 years. So that's the whole problem, is Mr. Moore. And that's why I voted against that and did not want that to happen, because what you guys think is you're autonomous, and you are not.
Mr. Thompson, I think the entire ODC board is well aware that we, each and every one of us, serve at the pleasure of the city council. There's no discussion about that. We understand that.
I don't think so.
We understand that. Without equivocation, we understand that. But when we're trying to do our best, devoting our time, our effort, our energy to try to move things forward, and then we get into these endless back and forth of, and maybe Mr. Moore is the problem.
He is the problem.
And maybe we should find out. Mr. Moore happens to be probably the foremost economic development attorney in the state. He represents dozens and dozens of EDCs, but hey.
I think he says and answers whoever calls him with what they want to hear. That's what I think.
Okay.
That's a good point.
That's a very good point.
We may need new counsel. But I will tell you that prior to that, the city legal staff that we had at the time was totally incompetent. They couldn't find, they didn't know the law on economic development worth a flip. And that's why we moved at that time to reach out to outside counsel, because we felt like we needed an expert in EDC.
So, Mr. Russell, you just wind up insulting this man and that staff out there.
No,
Yes, you did.
No, I'll say the former city attorney.
You're not a lawyer. Okay?
I'll say the former city attorney gave us lots of bad advice.
And the thing is it safe to say that the reason why you use that word of incompetence is because you weren't getting the answers that you wanted as a...
Absolutely not, Mr. Mayor. I take total offense to that.
Well, you should, because I took total offense to how you insulted the staff.
I did not insult Mr. Jones.
Yes,
To be clear,
and the staff incompetent.
let me be clear. I insulted Natasha Brooks because she deserved insulting.
That's still uncalled for.
We got so much bad advice out of her. That's why the ODC board, the board in its entirety, pushed for our own outside counsel. Someone who is an expert, by all accounts, in economic development.
And how do you back that he is the foremost expert?
He actually, when he was at the Attorney General's office, he actually wrote most of the handbook that governs EDCs.
Okay.
He currently serves as the attorney for, I think, a few dozen EDCs across the state of Texas.
Why both of you and Mr. Crow fought us on the Attorney General 2003 opinion, where we could do infrastructure when it created jobs and it was new infrastructure. And at both yours request, we wind up having to do a light industrial for the sports complex where we didn't have to do this. And so there's been some other information.
Well, you want to throw me and Mr. Crow under the bus. It's the entire ODC board that made those decisions.
You and Mr. Crow, we were in
Mr. Boutin, Ms. Holman.
You insisted on that.
No.
And then you took it to
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
I caught a question.
Question. Recognize.
We need to wrap this up. I mean, we're just going around in circles right now.
So we have a call to question. What's your question?
Can we go ahead and move on with the motion?
There is no motion on the floor. I have not recognized motion, but we do have an item for discussion on item 16.
I would like to say something first.
Okay, let me just read it real quick. To discuss and consider Odessa Development Corporation appointees, removal appointees, operation and leadership changes. The training.
So, one thing is,
yes, sir.
every one of y'all, The one person y'all wanting to get at was not here. So why did we even have this without Chris Crow being here? This was all a great show. I just want to thank y'all. It was a great show.
Not only problem,
You
but Mr.
you dogged my appointee. Mr. Russell is my appointee, and you did nothing but dog him and try to get and badger him to answer questions that he didn't even know anything about.
Mr. Russell, did you come and volunteer yourself? Did we call you up to the podium, or did you volunteer to come up to the podium?
You did not call me, I did
Thank you.
volunteer, but I came as the vice chair of the ODC.
Also, but you're not Mr. Crow. Two, Mr. Crow did send a message and ask for a proxy and to speak on behalf of him. That person decided not to do that. You stepped into that role. And you did it voluntarily. We did not ask you to do that.
And that's fine. I can answer questions. I have no problem standing up here and answering any question that you guys want to pose.
Because I noticed none of your appointees showed up for this meeting. Every one of y'all have appointees with the ODC, and none of them showed up.
I didn't ask my appointee to show up.
Why? Well,
I did not ask him.
why not? You were asking for everybody else in the ODC. Why didn't you ask your appointee to show up?
I've already spoken to him.
So, I mean, but nobody here got to hear it, and nobody got to hear it on record. But
Because
you
the
spoke
question-
to him.
Because the question had to do with the, with Mr. King.
Like I said, this is nothing but a witch hunt.
And sir, you have that right to have that opinion.
I said it.
Thank you. You have that right to have that opinion, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we have a call to question, but we don't have a motion on the table. What is a motion? You made a call to question.
I move that the city council removes Chair Chris Crow from ODC.
That's your motion as your appointee.
Yes.
Council, do we have any discussion, comments, or statements to make before I ask for a second?
My question would be, Mr. Mayor, in response to what Mr. Mata just read, or the motion made, each one of us independently have an appointee. We have the right to unappoint that person if that word exists. But what I'm being asked to do is to make a yay or nay vote on what he can do alone.
It has to be voted on by council.
No one can do that alone. It takes a majority of the council to appoint or to remove anyone from any of our appointees, be it a committee, a board, or city managers, city attorneys, city secretary.
It's going to take a majority.
And for the record, any council member can make a motion to remove
Anybody, yeah.
any member.
Thank you for educating me on that. That's something I didn't really know and understand, so I just wanted that clarified. Sure. Thank you.
Council, any discussion, statements?
Can this be tabled until we have an opportunity to do the same thing with?
At the point we have a call to question on item 16. We have a motion, and the motion is to remove Chris Crow off the ODC. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign.
Side.
Is there any against?
Side.
Okay, motion passes 6-1. We're going to move on to miscellaneous, and that is appointment boards. Do we have any appointees?
No, sir.
Since we have no appointees, I make a motion for item 18 to adjourn the meeting by Councilmember
So moved.
Swanner, second by Councilmember
Second.
Vasquez. All those in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Be careful going home.